In this short presentation, we will be discussing rule-based filtering in the FTK2 interface. If you've not seen the FTK2 interface before or have not watched the presentation on it, I would encourage you to do that. It will definitely help in understanding rule-based filtering. So as you can see, we are on the Explore tab in the FTK2. I have a case built, and I have currently the quick pick selected for the entire tree structure. So I have all, in this case, 3,811 items listed in my file tree or my file list. Before I go into how to make filters, let's discuss the two types of filters that are in the FTK2 interface. The first type of filter is up here in the filter toolbar, and this filter is a global filter that applies to the entire interface. So any one of the tabs or frame sets that I might be on, any filters applied here will apply to all of those individual tabs. So as an example, I'm going to apply a filter that is looking for deleted files only. So this filter, we'll get into looking at this filter in just a minute, but this filter will look for deleted files only, and you can see that my list of files is now narrowed down to 13. And this would be active on any tab that I'm on, regardless. So I've got 13 on my overview tab. If there are any emails, they would be there. On my graphics tab, there is a little bit different scenario going on in that I've got another filter running also called a frame set filter that we'll talk about in just a second. So again, back to the Explore tab, a filter applied here runs globally across all of the tabs. The second type of filter is the frame set filter, and look down here at the bottom, you'll see that on the Explore frame set I have no filter running as a frame set filter. So frame set filters are specific to frame sets or to tabs, and when they're applied to a tab, they do not apply to the other tabs. So let me go back and turn this global filter off, and I will apply a frame set filter to the Explore tab or Explore frame set. So I'll go to the filter menu, down to frame set filter, and I will apply a filter here looking for deleted files. And so now you can see I've got the same 13 files appearing, but this filter only applies to the Explore tab. There is not one running here on the Overview tab. In addition to applying frame set filters, I can also apply global filters. So this gives you the ability to double filter something. So as a global filter, I could perhaps apply the graphics files global filter, and I'm back down to a single graphic that has been deleted because I'm combining these two filters. This is the same file that you saw in the graphics tab a minute ago, where the graphics filters were filtered down to only deleted items. So on the graphics tab, I'm running a frame set filter that is just graphics files. That allows me to only see graphics files on this tab. If I were to apply a global filter of deleted files on this tab, you will see that I'm down to a single file that is the same one that I saw in the Explore tab. So we're combining two different filters on these tabs. So let me go ahead and turn off this filter and go over to the Explore tab. I have no global filter running here. I do still have my frame set filter running, so let me turn that off. And let's talk about how to build a filter. To construct filters, we define them in this global filter toolbar, and then after defining them, they can be applied globally or as a frame set filter. So I can either pick a predefined one from this list and then further refine or define it by hitting the Define button, or if I hit the Define button with nothing selected, I will be taken to the same place as if I hit the Create New Filter button. So I'm going to be taken to a temporary filter. This temporary filter will give us a palette to explain rule-based filtering a little bit. I'll explain the concept of rule-based filtering now. To begin with, we have a name for the filter. So if I were going to be saving and using this filter, I would go ahead and give it a name. So I'll call this the Ken filter just so I can remember that I made it later. We can put an optional description in here to allow us to describe what this filter is supposed to be doing. I'll get to the live preview and these two boxes in just a second. Down in the rules area is where we actually apply rules to this filter. So let me take a look at this first rule that has been applied by default, and this we'll get to in just a second, but this rule is actually applying to a previously defined filter. We'll change the properties for this first rule to be something like maybe logical size. So the property now is saying that the logical size, and then I have a number of operators, is not, is less than, is not less than, and so forth. I simply pick one of these rules. So for instance, the logical size is greater than, and then in this criteria box I put what I would like to specify as a value. So I'll put the value of 30 in here, and then I can choose whether it's 30K, 30 meg, or 30 gigabytes, or even 30 bytes. So we'll go ahead and put 30K and say OK to that. So now I've specified in this rule that the logical size is greater than 30K. Now you'll notice that in the background my file list has not changed, and that's because I do not have the live preview box checked. If I check the live preview box, this filter will begin to auto update as I apply rules to it. And you can see that I'm already down to 226 files that have a logical size greater than 30K. So you can see how this could quickly allow you to narrow down your scope if you're looking for large graphics and so forth. Remember that these are rule-based filters, in that I can use them, I can use these operators and actually change the total focus of that filter. Right now I'm looking for something that is greater than 30K, but perhaps I wanted to do something that was less than 30K. So I could simply put in here that value, and now I'm looking at the opposite side of that filter. Okay? So to show you rule-based filtering again, let's change this to something else, a little bit more easily understood. Something like perhaps the object name or file name. And if I choose object name, now my operators say is not, contains, does not contain, and so forth. Any one of these choices. I could, in this filter, I could make a file filter that will limit my visible files to only files that contain or begin with or do not contain certain words, certain strings for the file name, not for the contents of the file. So I'm going to choose down here case contains, case insensitive, meaning it is not case sensitive, and it can contain this value anywhere. And I'm going to put the word fraud in here. And after selecting or typing in that value, you see that we have one file that matches that, and the name contains the word fraud. I can add additional rules to this filter. This is where the concept of rule-based filtering really starts to take hold. And I do that by hitting the plus button here next to this first rule. This will add a second rule. I'll then select again the property, so I'll choose object name. I'll choose contains, case insensitive. And in the text box, I'll type the word check, C-H-E-C-K. And now I'm looking for either one of these names to appear in a file name. Now you'll notice, because I have the live preview button selected, I don't have any files in my file list, and that is because of this last option in the file definition window, the match any and match all selections. Right now this file is, or this filter is demanding that any filtered in results match both of these criteria. By doing the match any, it can match either one of these criteria, and now you can see that I'm up to 15 items that are being filtered in, some with the word check, some with the word fraud. And I could simply continue to add additional rules to this as needed. So I'll go ahead and do one more. And now I have 3 items in here. Now remember that just because I've used object name, that doesn't preclude me from really going crazy with this filter and adding a rule that says something like, oh, the file type is, and I can then select from all of the file types available. Perhaps I want to have file types of only JPEGs. And now I'm down to 387 files that contain one of these words or are a JPEG. Remember that match any, match all. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and close this filter. Actually, we'll save this filter and use it a little bit later. I'm going to close out of this box. So now I've got this filter applied. If I want to export this filter so that I can use it on another installation of FTK2 or on another case, I simply bring up that filter, and then I use the export button, which is this little filter or funnel with the arrow pointing out of it, and I'm prompted then to save it out into a XML file somewhere on my machine. I simply give it a name and hit save, and it is now exported out as an XML file. To import a filter, I would simply do the same thing by choosing the import button and browse out to where my XML file is. And you can see this one I just exported, and here is one I previously defined called case keywords, and I'm going to go ahead and import that. Once that's been imported, I can apply that filter just like any other filter. So I'll go ahead and apply that. We'll take a look at it, and you can see that this filter is actually a case keywords filter using an object name of any one of these criteria. They're all contains case insensitive, and it is a match any filter. So by applying that, I'm down to 36 files that have one of these words in the file name. We'll go ahead and cancel out of that, and I'm going to turn off this filter. Okay, we're back to our 3,811 files. And to show you one other unique way that filtering can be used, I'm going to go to the Graphics tab and take a look in my Suspects Documents and Settings folder, his user folder. This is actually a Windows Vista machine, and take a look at his documents. In here we can find a graphic of a credit card, and I'm going to take a look at the properties for that file, and you'll notice that this file has an owner SID that ends in 1000. Okay, it ends in 1000. So I'm going to just highlight that and right click it and copy it into the Windows clipboard, that entire SID. And then I'm going to go to the top of the tree here, still in the Graphics tab, and do a quick pick to select the entire graphic structure. Now remember, we have a graphic frame set filter that is applying to this tab that is only showing us graphic files. I'm then going to hit the Define button, and I'm going to make a new filter. And I'm going to call this filter SID is, meaning the SID is a specific SID. Okay, and then I'm going to go to the Properties window for this first rule and pull this down and choose from any one of the available properties. Now I want you to take a look at all of the things that you can filter on in FTK2. And this list just goes on and on and on. Many of these, honestly, you may never use, but if you need to use them, that information is there. There is a frequently used common features area right here, and that will probably give you many of the rules that you will need to filter on during your cases. So I'm going to go back to this All Features and down to the O's for Owner SID and select Owner SID. And then I'm going to look in the Operators window, and I can see is, not, contains, and so forth. And I'm going to choose is, and in the criteria box I'm going to paste in that specific value. Okay, now I've told the filter to look for files that only have an owner SID that is that value, and you can see that I'm down to 87 versus without the filter running I had 679. Another way that I could use this functionality is that I know that this SID ends in 1000, but perhaps I don't know all of this SID information that comes before the user ID. So I can simply drop down in the operators box, and I can say that I want something that ends with, and in this box I'll just put 1000. And I'm back to the 87 files we saw before. So I'll go ahead and save this filter out, and we'll call this SID is. And now I'd like to show you how to make a nested filter. So I'm going to cancel this, go to my Explore tab, and I do have the SID is filter applied. So out of the entire case, I've got 620 files that have that owner SID. I'm going to now turn this filter off, and I'm going to define a new filter. And this time, my filter is going to be what we call a nested filter. The nested filter is where you actually use a predefined filter and you nest it within another filter. The first rule in this filter is going to be that the file type, or actually we'll use file category. It gives us the ability to do a more global specification on a file type. Is a member of. We also have is not a member of, so I'll choose is a member of. And in the file category, we're going to go down here and pick the general category of graphics. Versus if we'd used file type here, we would have to pick a specific file type. So this lets us do just graphics. And so we're going to go ahead and make that our first rule. That should limit us to only graphic files. We're going to choose the match all button here, which says that it has to match all of these rules. This is an AND operator instead of an OR. I'm then going to add another rule to this filter, and I'm going to say that the filter matches, and here's a list of my predefined filters. And I'm going to pick from this list SID is. So this is going to tell me, this filter is going to tell FTK to show any files that are a member of the category of graphics and have that specific SID. And so you'll see we're back to the same 87 that we saw on the graphics tab. So many ways to use these nested filters and to use this rule-based filtering in FTK2.